And this here is at the Beijing Foreign Language Festival, and we work with the China Science and Technology Museum, and we helped them develop a show. This show was about a scientist who's trying to make rain, which they do here in Beijing. They shoot silver iodide, which is a chemical, in rockets or in shells from a launcher up into clouds. They explode, and this chemical causes the drops in the cloud to form together to make large enough drops where it rains.
Go through that again for me, because I think this is making rain in China. I think is a subject that's very, very fascinating to everyone, and you're the perfect guys to explain it in a simple way. How does it get done, first of all, and secondly, how, as a person getting rained on, can I tell whether it was man-made or not?
So I think actually it was Australia's science body that first came up with this technology, and they were looking at ways of making it rain in a snowy mountain area where a lot of the hydroelectric systems are set up. And they originally shot liquid nitrogen, which is incredibly cold, and they would use a artillery gun to fire up a shell, which would explode when it hits the cloud. Now, a cloud has lots of tiny, tiny drops of water, and it's only when those drops of water join together and are big enough and heavy enough that they fall down as rain. In the case of liquid nitrogen, there would be no way that you could tell if that was because of cloud seeding, which is what they call it, or just normal rain. And I believe with the silver iodide, which is which they're using in China, you also wouldn't know, because they're tiny little particles, tiny little particles that the water droplets can join around. It just adds that one little speck that they need. It can often be dust, just a bit of dust. They all join around there and make these drops of rain. So the rain is the same.
So there has to be enough moisture in the cloud for these little drops to already be there.
You can't create water in the atmosphere.
Right, so it's not enough. So what you're doing, when the rain is created, you're shooting silver iodide by rockets or something up into the clouds. It is creating some piece of dust or some speck, that water that is already too small to fall, but then clumps into bigger things, and then that's what falls.
Exactly.
And in a way, you're making it rain where you want it to. You're controlling where the rain happens. It will happen eventually.
Because the clouds move, you could say, they're here now.
Yep.
And so I believe before the Olympics, they tried to make it
That's
rain
what I'm thinking about,
away from Beijing. Whereas now they might want
somewhere like near Hebei or somewhere else.
And then in other times they might want to make it rain above a dam or an agricultural area. So instead of going towards the mountains where they nearly always form rain, you can distribute. This distribution of rain can be manipulated.
And is there a downside to this?
It's controversial, actually. There's three countries that sort of do it a lot. Australia is one of them in the south, China and Israel. And we all have problems with water. Those three countries have problems with not getting enough water, and so you want to make it rain when you want it. The long-term data suggests that you can't increase the amount of rain over time. You're just going to make it happen when you want it.
When and where?
When and where you want it. Where to a less extent. Mostly when. It sort of needs to be in the atmosphere ready to go, and then you can control it. For example, China has this down to a fine art. They will tell us it'll rain at 8:05, and it does. They've been able to manipulate the heavy metal in the sky to a point where they know exactly from when the rocket goes when it will start to rain, and it does. They're very, very good at it.
That's both really kind of cool and a little scary.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.